Rohri in Sindh province was submerged underwater 3 years ago. The area has rebuilt slowly, but the historic floods of 2022 linked to climate change are still impacting the young girls in the region. Raj Devi's life changed 3 years ago. She was 14 and loved going to school. She was forced into marriage 4 months after her village was flooded. She had to drop out of school and become a housewife. Mother of a 2-year-old girl, she lives in a traditional household with her husband and in-laws.
During the floods, we had to flee our home and live in shelters on the main road. We survived thanks to humanitarian aid. We had nothing left, and my father had to take a loan. My parents then decided to marry me off to ease their burden. I was very young. I didn't even know how to manage a house and what it meant to be a wife.
Child marriages are prevalent in this school of more than 500 students. It's a custom deeply rooted in local traditions. But the trend has increased in recent years as a consequence of climate change. Sanam Malik is the principal of this co-ed school.
कैसे सर ठीक है? मैं भी बिल्कुल ठीक हूँ. क्या पढ़ रहे हैं अभी हम लोग?
Since 2022, 7 girls aged 9 to 15 had to drop out of school after being forced into marriage. Sanam Malik and her team convinced the parents of 32 others to postpone their marriage.
The girls are the same age as these students who are engaged or even married. When we try to convince the parents not to do this, they promise in front of us not to marry them off. But most of the time they do it anyway, even though their daughters are so young. Even if the man they give their daughter to is older than them, they still marry them off, thinking that they will grow up to be fine in the end.
Pakistani law prohibits marriage before the age of 18, yet 33% of children are victims of underage marriage in the Sakhar district.
Since 2022, the rate of young girls getting married has increased. The main reason is that poverty has increased. In this community, many parents cannot afford to feed their families and have many children, so they marry their daughters off to go to their in-laws, which means they will have one less mouth to feed. There is also the local tradition of marrying girls in exchange for money.
Dozens of girls here have been promised by their parents to men they often know nothing about. Nausheen is one of them. She's 14 years old.
It was my father who decided to get me engaged, and he was the one who took the money. I don't know exactly how much he got, maybe 300,000 Pakistani rupees. When he decides to organize the marriage, I'll have no say because it's the eldest decision.
Her father, who lives in another city, received about 1,000 euros in exchange for her hand in marriage, 4 times the average salary in Pakistan. She lost her mother several years ago and now lives with her grandmother. The 2022 floods destroyed her family's home, which they had to rebuild.
After the rain, there was a huge hole in the middle of the house, and it collapsed. There was water everywhere. Although we are poor, we did not receive any help from the government or anyone else. We had to rebuild everything ourselves.
She refuses to tell us about her granddaughter's upcoming marriage. Many families, aware that they are acting illegally, fear legal action. Some parents, like Bashir Ahmed, regret their actions. The father of 6 lost 70% of his livestock in the floods. Last year, he married off his 14-year-old daughter.
We thought she had reached the age of marriage, and the other family would help us, because at that time we were suffering a lot financially. I don't know if she's okay. I should have let her study.
He hadn't heard from his daughter for almost a year. Her husband refuses to let her have contact with her parents. While the social consequences of child marriage are severe, the health impacts can be fatal. Every month, this hospital sees around 30 pregnant patients under the age of 18. Dr. Safia is examining a young woman who is 8 months pregnant.
लालची गाना भारत है पण ये गाना अच्छा तो नहीं गाने की मम्मी चाहती थी 15 साल दिन में थी खाने तो बिछाना स्लो हमारी बात
Pregnancy and child complications are the primary cause of death for young mothers in developing countries.
Young girls are not sufficiently developed and are still small. Then during labor, the baby tears the tissues located between the vagina and the rectum, creating large holes called fistulas, which results in permanent leakage of urine and stool. Then their husbands divorce them, society rejects them, and they find themselves isolated.
Girls in Pakistan, a country with the world's 6th highest teenage marriage rate, face heightened risks as global warming threatens more climate-induced disasters.